Yesterday there were very many versions, but by the time it was evening, we did come to know through various sources as to what appeared to have happened. Nothing with certainty, but what appeared to have happened. Uh, so, as you said, the one goods train was received on loop line. After a train is received on a line, the station master is supposed to set the route to the other vacant line. That means it was loop. He should have set the route to main line. Whether he did it or not is not clear, but some work was going on, as it appears, on that point. And while working, it's possible that a shortcut was done, or by mistake, I'll not call it tampering, by mistake, something was done through the electronic circuitry or relays that the station master got an indication that the route has been set to main line, whereas it actually remained in the loop line. And he then took the signal off for main line. So the driver of Coromandel would have seen that he's going on the main line at full speed, whereas the route was actually set to the loop line. And after that, what happened, you have already described. It was a massive impact. And now the question, it is a criminal activity, whether it is done by a saboteur or by railway staff. It is difficult to imagine that this would be done by some saboteur. What it indicates is shortcut working by some railway staff, although I cannot say anything with finality. And whether in collusion with the station master or not is something to be determined by the inquiry committee. It could be negligence of the station master also, because the route was showing main line, whereas he had not taken any action to set the route back to main line. That means normalize the point. If that has happened, then he also has he is also in a way culpable. All this is a matter of inquiry, although we should not make any judgment here, but to my mind, it looks like cavalier, careless working by railway staff, not a case of sabotage. Uh, I will also clarify that Kavach would not have prevented this accident, as Minister has also said rightly, because Kavach or any safety system does not cater to tampering with the equipment. It builds safeguards into the system so that if anything is defective or anything goes wrong, it goes in a safe mode. But if you have an activity where the norms are not followed, shortcuts are employed, that is a criminal activity. One more point, this kind of shortcut working is not very rare. It keeps happening because of the pressure of work. Because if you do in a systematic working, then you have to follow the procedure, and trains may also have to be blocked for some time. And nobody likes that. So there is a tendency to do this shortcut kind of work. And to that extent, if this goes on frequently, matter of investigation, that then the management is also involved. Management is also culpable.
Mr. Mani, just to put this into perspective, because yesterday when the information came in with regards to the route relay interlinking board essentially indicating that the passage that was given, the signal that was actually given to Coromandel, it was given a green signal, moved into the loop line. So is that also part of it, part of this entire aspect that the minister was basically referring to?
So when you tamper with the circuitry or the relays inside the point machine or wherever, the system is fooled into thinking that the route is set to the main line, whereas the route is set to the open line, to the loop line. And the signal can then be taken off for through passage. So it is this tampering with the system or shortcut working with the electronic circuitry under pressure of work, most likely, that has caused this accident. And as I keep saying, nothing can be I won't rule out anything. There is a distant, of course, possibility of sabotage. But my experience tells me that this kind of, shortcut working railway staff have to resort to under pressure of work, pressure of timing of trains and so on. And it keeps happening. It's just that it is one of those rarest of rare occasions when circumstances combined for it to result in such a massive accident.
Even if it were to have been diverted to another line, and of course it was 7 p.m. It was perhaps pitch dark here when it happened, right? Now, if you assume that the emergency brakes were to be pulled by the loco pilot, it would have been impossible to divert avert something like this, isn't it? Because when an express train is moving at full speed, and by full speed I'm assuming it's around 100 kilometers, for that to happen, look at that. This is a line I'm here. This is the interlinking from the main line to the loop line right behind me. For that, it's just a matter of 150 meters. But even if you were to fully apply the emergency brakes, it would take, I assume, and I'm no expert, I would assume that it would take at least a kilometer or two for the train to completely come to a halt, isn't it? So you can't really, I'm not sure whether you can even talk about the loco pilot or the man behind the train for this accident.
No, I will not assign any blame to the loco pilot. You are partly right. It may not take 1 kilometer. It may be a matter of 300, 400 meters. But I believe the speed was not 100. It was 130. I may be wrong, but this is what I've learned. At 130 kilometers, if a train negotiates a loop on which it is supposed to pass at 30 kilometers, that itself can derail the train. Whether that happened or whether it passed on that without derailing and rammed into the goods train is again a matter of investigation. But the reaction time and the distance between this locomotive of Coromandel and the rear of the goods train is so small that the driver could practically have done nothing about it.
Mr. Mani, with regards to this entire angle of sabotage that some are basically referring to, you've also clarified this in your first question, but a little bit of more details with regards to the fact that what's the hierarchy like when it comes to the operation of this circuit, and does that only remain with the station master, or there would be more people who would be involved?
Okay, so these things are under lock and key. And the keys are with station master and the signal maintainer. So they have to jointly do this. To approach this circuitry, one person alone cannot do it. And he can do it only with the consent of the station master. Now, all that should be a matter of record, whether the key was taken under due procedure, or even if the key was taken under due procedure, whether the regulation provisions were followed while doing the maintenance. Was the maintenance ongoing and some shortcuts were being followed with or without the collusion of the station master? So it clearly shows that the signal maintenance staff is definitely involved. The station staff may or may not be involved. Again, a matter of investigation. And the remote possibility of a sabotage, why I say remote, because a saboteur would not take this complicated route of tampering with the circuitry. Now, there are easier methods to do sabotage, as you know, tampering with the track. And now why would he do it at a station? It would be much easier done somewhere in a remote part of the main line. But anyway, these are all speculations. What appears to me at this point is criminal, I'd say criminal, not saboteur, criminal practice of shortcut during maintenance. And it is not so rare, it keeps happening. And because there are no accidents, it is buried or excused. And perhaps this accident, after the inquiry report is out, would be a big lesson that just to keep train operation going, we cannot be playing with the lives of passengers.
Yes, and you've seen the evolution of the Indian Railways, Mr. Mani.
Yeah.
And from these trains that we are talking about that were involved in this accident to the Vande Bharat,
And how do you, in your view, how do you avert something like this going forward? Is technologically, how challenging is that going to be? Because anyway, the shift from the trains that we operate to the Vande Bharat has been a drastic one. But how long and how difficult is this going to be, given that, I'm standing out on one of India's, if not India's busiest rail line. This is the southeast line where most of the traffic is seen. Mr. Mani.
Yes, it is a busy line, and I'm sure it is working to more than the capacity, what we call a saturated route. That also is a reason of generating this pressure for doing maintenance, because the system demands that the trains be running all the time and the track be available all the time. So there is a big pressure in getting time for maintenance. That is one. But for prevention, okay. There are wonderful safeguards in the system. The system itself would never permit something like this to happen. As the minister has said, there is criminal tampering by whoever. To build a system against criminal tampering is not going to be very easy. We should, because it's now a matter of tampering with the safety systems. The larger question, whether the system can be made foolproof against tampering or all, also is something to be studied and seen. I will not give an offhand comment on that. But it's not going to be very easy, even in an advanced signaling system. That if somebody is doing shortcut work or tampering with the circuitry, it is an inherently very, very unsafe situation. I think once the inquiry report is out, more and more thought would go into this also.
Mr. Mani, in terms of the way forward, this entire lapse, you may call it lapse or you may call it a sabotage, but the fact of the matter is that at some level it is someone within the railway department who is essentially responsible for it, not an outsider. Having said that, do you think perhaps more checks and balances is what is required, or do you believe that this was one-off incident rather?
Yes, I keep saying that it is one of such instances where circumstances combine to make this a severe accident. But the instance of what presumably has been done by maintenance staff is not something very unique. It is something which is, I will not say commonplace, but everyone runs into such situation off and on. And perhaps there is some closure of eyes when we witness this. So to that extent, how much prevalent was such careless working in this particular railway, I cannot comment upon. But if it was, then you have to have the management also accountable. The signal maintainer and the ASM certainly, because if the ASM is also involved, they have done something inherently very dangerous. But if it was a practice which was being done here and there, and management was aware of it, which the inquiry should seek to determine, then they have a greater responsibility.
Buddy, one final question that I wanted to take with you with regards to the call that many are now making. There is politicking that's actually taking place on this entire matter. They say that the railway minister is also responsible. Having said that, would you say that, yes, there are mistakes that have been made, and perhaps there is a need for more accountability as far as this issue is concerned?
Okay, see, the accountability of the top man is never direct. It is all a matter of taking moral responsibility. When Lal Bahadur Shastri has resigned after a big train accident, or even Nitish Kumar had resigned after the Daisal train accident about 24 years back, it's a matter of how much moral responsibility you assign to yourself. And it is above politics, let me say. I am aware of only these two instances, whereas at least 50 such major accidents would have taken place since independence. So that is a matter to be decided by the individual himself. But I would definitely say that this would throw up some information of careless attitude for which accountability has to go above the station staff and the maintenance staff.
With the rescue operation almost